Okay, before we get started, I need to say something that needs to be said, and you're going to understand the context later in the piece.
Uh-oh. The Young Turks' Hasan Piker is at it again. You know what that means? Yes. Instagram posts.
Nazis and white supremacists are terrorists.
Who are the Nazis, Hasan? Not once in this entire video will you properly define Nazis, yet you will repeatedly utter the phrase, completely robbing it from any meaning it once held. There are fringe elements in American society who espouse some very violent, very racist rhetoric, sure, but they are not members of the German National Socialist Party. In fact, I think they probably will be expelled and shot by actual Nazis because they kind of suck as Nazis.
Just like ISIS. And the people affiliated with them are also terrorists. Just like ISIS. We lock up ISIS affiliates, as we should, so why do we treat Nazis and white supremacists differently?
Okay, stop jumping around. This video gives me a headache and we're only 16 seconds in. Stop yelling. Now, is ISIS the only militant terrorist organization in the world? Is it really? Or are you just focusing on ISIS to deflect from the fact that there are hundreds, if not thousands, of radical Muslim organizations around the world, bent on the destruction of the West?
Here's why. Because they're white.
Bullshit.
Why did you wait so long? Why did Nazis neo-Nazis?
I didn't wait long.
Why did Trump wait so long to condemn Nazis?
You're about to present Trump's condemnation and excoriate him because he didn't single out one group and lumped the group on your side, Antifa and the likes, into a single, simple condemnation. Get ready, folks. There's going to be a lot of those really fast cuts with flashing yellow text that's moving way too fast on the screen. And again, he condemned everyone who was involved in those incidents.
I wanted to make sure, unlike most politicians, that what I said was correct.
I'm sorry, but if you think that Donald Trump has ever waited to be correct before speaking, you are absolutely a moron and should turn off this video right now.
Okay, not a great way to attract your viewers to keep watching. You know, calling them morons, actively telling them to click away from your content. Yeah, good job, Hasan. I'm sure Uncle Cenk is proud.
Of course! Of course! Of course!
While you're turning it off, go follow my Instagram at least. You'll fit right in with the rest of some of the commenters.
Good God, why am I doing this to myself? Why? Why?
Why? Why?
You don't make statements that direct unless you know the fact.
Donald Trump is not a person who's known for waiting for the facts, especially when it fits his agenda.
Oh yeah? You mean like what you're doing right now? I mean, all you're presenting us is one side, which is precisely what Trump was seeking to avoid in his initial condemnation. It was simple, succinct, and to the point. But you people, you were just being vengeful and moronic. Always a deadly combination. So you squeezed the man until he finally uttered the word that you wanted him to utter, and it still wasn't enough.
Like in the case of the supposedly Muslim shooter that attacked a mosque in Quebec. As you may remember, the White House immediately used that to promote Trump's Muslim ban. Turns out that the shooter wasn't a Muslim, but a fucking white nationalist.
Okay, Bissonnette may have been a racist asshole, but it wasn't a Muslim ban, Hasan. It was a travel ban. And those countries that were pre-selected, they were pre-selected by the previous administration. I just love how you people just conveniently leave these facts out. It's stunning. Also, he was Canadian. This happened in Canada. Yeah, great KKK country.
Speaking of white nationalists, back to Charlottesville.
I had to see the facts. Unlike a lot of reporters, the facts. The facts...
Yeah. Donald only waits for facts when he's clearly in the wrong, but then he conveniently brushes over the realities, if the Nazis happen to vote for him.
Okay. You're being deliberately obtuse here. Hillary Clinton had the support of, got kissed by, and heaped praise upon the leader of the KKK, Robert Byrd. Yet you provide zero facts that Trump waits for the facts when he's wrong, and zero evidence to link him to people who voted for him because it's not fucking there. I can't help it if an asshole likes this video and then goes off and lynches a manatee at the zoo.
And in fact, everybody said his statement was beautiful. If he would have made it sooner, that would have been good.
Donald, no sane person said your statement was beautiful. Are you fucking kidding me?
Is that a direct quote from Romney? I believe the Romney quote was, quote, "He should address the American people, acknowledge that he was wrong, apologize, and caused racists to rejoice, minorities to weep, and the vast heart of America to mourn." Wow. It's hard to imagine Mitt ever ran as a Republican, huh?
As a matter of fact, the only people who supported your statement was this guy.
We are determined to take our country back. We're going to fulfill the promises of Donald Trump.
And this guy.
Hail Trump! Hail our people! Hail victory!
I love how you show tweets and not current footage of these racist assholes, but never mind. Two people, albeit influential in their realm, do not constitute a threat to the safety and security of this nation, and more importantly, are not fucking Nazis.
Those are the guys on your team.
Did Trump give Richard Spencer a cabinet position while this was happening? Did David Duke get a new UN ambassadorship? No? Then how are they on his team? Because they support him? How dense are you? No, don't even answer that.
It took you 3 days of withering bipartisan attacks before reluctantly condemning the KKK and the Nazis, which is probably the most American thing you can do, and then within 24 hours you drew an equivalence between the groups you just condemned and the counter-protesters who suffered casualties.
Yes, because Antifa caused no casualties and no injuries whatsoever, right? Right.
On what planet are Nazis and the people Nazis run over with their cars equally at fault?
God, please stop saying Nazis. You've made these people into this boogeyman, this apparition, but you neglect the fact that these people operated in the very fringe of society for decades before you asshats decided to come out, call everyone a Nazi because they disagreed with you. You began bludgeoning people with bike locks and macing people in the face for their political beliefs. You know what? Fuck it. You people reap what you fucking sow. We had a black president for 8 years. Where were those KKK rallies drawing thousands and tens of thousands calling to lynch Barry at the Rose Garden? Where were those so-called Nazis calling for the extermination of Jews and blacks during his tenure? Oh? Sorry, what? You mean they weren't there? It's almost like they had no reason to come out of the shadows because they knew they'd be squashed like a bug by both public and political opinion. And then Antifa comes out, otherizing anyone who disagrees with them as a Nazi, throwing labels around like it's confetti, and all of a sudden we have a rise in white nationalism in America. Take some fucking responsibility for creating this problem, and maybe, just maybe, we'll have something to talk about. Hasan.
Asking for accountability from these people is like asking why Heather Heyer didn't move out of the way of the car. It's like blaming part of the violence during the civil rights movement on those pesky protesters who kept taunting those police dogs. It's like claiming that the Twin Towers were leaning into the planes. It's a Neil Brennan joke.
So, you're not only unoriginal, you're also showing really piss-poor equivalencies. One which took place in the 60s, and another which anniversary we're commemorating in a couple of weeks. Bravo. Bruh-fucking-vo.
But I guess it's hard to see that only one side was responsible for the violence, the Nazis and their sympathizers, when you know they were the side wearing your uniform.
Excuse me, Hasan, but people, racist as they may be, were marching around with torches. They weren't wearing uniforms, and more importantly, they had the right to do so. You know who was also violent, wore uniforms, and broke the law? I'll wait.
It's so strange when the same person who holds all of Islam accountable for terror.
Where did he say that? You're talking about the man who spoke in front of the entire leadership of the Arab and Muslim world and for some reason didn't say what you were accusing him of saying and managed to have a cordial gathering with them. Glowing orb of death not included.
Is so eager to turn the other cheek when it comes to excusing violence committed by his rabid white supremacist followers.
Where did he excuse their violence? Where? He condemned both sides. You know what? I'm just going to put a flashing yellow caption over you from here on out.
Yeah, Trump's right. There were some very fine people on the side of the Nazis advocating for ethnic cleansing. Let's take a look.
Jews will not replace us!
Nothing to see here, just a bunch of normal, nice white folk. Are the nice people here? Don't really see the nice people when I'm looking at the militia. Are they here?
Selective editing is selective, Hasan. What's your point?
Now let me ask you this. If ISIS, a violent terror group advocating for the destruction of America and its values, just like Nazis and white supremacists are, wanted to exercise their First Amendment rights by setting up a heavily armed but peaceful protest, just like this one, where they're brandishing assault rifles and waving black flags calling for the death of all Christians, and then one of their radical sympathizers engaged in an act of terror by violently driving into a crowd of counter-protesters, would you be looking to shift the blame to the other side like this?
Okay, now you're just being a dishonest, snarky little prick. ISIS are not Americans, for starters. They don't exercise their First Amendment right, they take it by force and deny it to everyone else. They don't have counter-protesters. See, this is the problem with your equivalence. We're living in a free nation. People here are allowed to hold views that are not the same as yours. If you were in ISIS-held territory, you'd either convert or die. There would be no counter-protest. You ass.
Because the only difference between ISIS and the Nazis is the color of their skin, Donald. As a matter of fact, white supremacists are responsible for the majority of domestic terror.
No, actually, white nationalists account for 106 deaths in 62 separate incidents between September 12 of 2001 to December 31st of 2016. During that same time period, 119 individuals were killed by radical Islamic violent extremists. Now you'll say, okay, those numbers are pretty close, Feiner. Yeah, except where it took white nationalists 62 separate incidents, it took radical Islamic violent extremists a mere 23 incidents. 23. That means a club shooting in Orlando, that means workplace shooting in San Bernardino, but no, you're right. It's the white nationalists. And only the white nationalists, you divisive meathead.
I said this once, I'm going to say it again, I'm not saying that white Christians are Nazis, but the fact that you're trying so hard to make it seem like actual Nazis and their sympathizers should not be condemned is the exact reason why 60 years after the Civil Rights Movement, these assholes don't feel the need to hide their faces under hoods.
Okay, now you're just conflating Nazis, white supremacists, the KKK, and anyone who's slightly right from Stalin into a single group. Stop doing that. Stop taking a complex issue and narrow it down to its base elements. This is not critically thinking about this issue, this is pure fear-mongering. And you're pointing the finger at anyone who doesn't outright condemn people you tell them to condemn. Hasan, have you condemned the violence Antifa has brought to the street? Have you condemned Black Lives Matter and their violent rhetoric? No? What's that? Oh, they aren't Nazis? Huh, silly me. We only condemned one violent side. The other side is just purely justified. Because Nazis.
Anyone and everyone who does not condemn them outright is absolutely complicit in the violence that has already taken many lives and will only escalate from here. So I'm asking once again to everyone, conservatives, progressives, everyone, do the right thing, do the American thing, and join the fight against white supremacy and Nazis. And
his video just cuts out at this point. The subtitles continue, but it's best that they ran out of batteries, or hopefully they fired the editor or cameraman for ruining Hasan's little diatribe. I want to say something here, outside of the finer print persona. I'm a Jew. I'm a third generation to Holocaust survivors on both sides of my family. My entire life has been lived in the specter of the Holocaust, and eventually I've learned to move on from living my life in constant fear of other people. What this video and what people are doing on the streets of Berkeley, in Germany, everywhere, is not fighting against Nazis. What they are doing is sowing the seeds for the next horrible movement that will eclipse the horrors of the Holocaust and communism combined. They do this because either they are ignorant of the full context of history, or they do this because they are politically motivated to do so in order to repeat history. What pisses me off about Hasan here and others like him is that they make me stand up and defend the rights of people who support an ideology that nearly wiped out my people. But I have to. Hitler rose to power after the German government tried to shut him down, tried to imprison him and his ideas. Guess how well that turned out? When you outlaw something, when you give it a forbidden allure, you attract people to it. You don't make it less attractive by prohibiting it. When we're teenagers, all we want to do is drink beer, smoke cigarettes, and do some pot, because we're not legal to do so, and because it has this air of mystique to it. Ideology works the same way. The more you restrict it, the more it blossoms internally and draws more people to it. And the people out there shouting Nazis at Americans are just emboldening the people who actually do follow such ideology to come out of the woodwork and start posing their ideas as a legitimate alternative to theirs. This is dangerous, and people like Hasan simply perpetuate such narratives atop a 3.5 million subscriber platform with impunity. I'm done. I'm the finer print. Peace.